Well, welcome to the Super Bowl event in Vegas. It's an unexpected weather today, but bright. Welcome, Alex. It's nice to meet you. I would love to know more what brought you here today and just a little bit about your background.
Thank you, Suryansh, and thanks, everyone. My name is Alex Genov. I lead customer research at Zappos, and my role is to help the organization understand customers as human beings and individuals, in addition to the numbers and the data and so on. I'm very excited to talk to you, Suryansh, today.
Well, I'm excited for this conversation as well. A little bit about me. So I am Suryansh. I am co-founder of EssentiallySports. We started this company as a passion project in 2014 with two of my friends. And now 10 years in and a lot of user research in as well. Now we are top 10 sports publisher in the United States. A lot of it happened through data backwards, customer research, and doing content virality at scale. And that's where I would like to start about your work as well, Alex. So when I was reading about your work, and I love your book, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
You are one of those unique researchers who talked about data and anecdotal insights of surveys and research together. So I would love to know more. How do you place customer backwards data analysis with, let's say, focus room research that you do at Zappos?
Absolutely, Suryansh. Great question. So this focus of mine is based on my educational background, which is in experimental social psychology. So being a psychologist, I'm a psychologist and not a technologist. I think that gives me a little bit of a different perspective. And in my academic work and my doctoral work, I studied emotions and how they get generated, how we measure them, how we define them. And also with a big focus on individual differences. So these two areas of focus, in addition to all the research background in psychology and the research method and so on, gave me a unique perspective. And it's so important, I believe, nowadays to recognize that customers and fans are human beings. Because we're so currently enamored with this idea of data and algorithms and numbers and AI that sometimes we lose this perspective. It's so close to the mind that it almost fades to the background, that customers are not numbers. And so your question goes to the heart of the matter, and I think it's absolutely essential to balance this focus on the numbers, which is inevitable. Businesses are run on numbers. And when you have millions of customers and millions of fans, of course, you have to turn them into numbers in a way, right? To be able to manage that. And then companies are measured in terms of their performance is measured in numbers, transactions, dollar signs, and so on. But that has to be balanced with the view of the customer as an individual and human being. So in my research, I always do both. I do both qualitative and quantitative work. So the qualitative work is, of course, research has to do with deeper understanding. You can get a great insight from talking to one person, right? And then the question is, if you want to make it practical and scale it up, they say, then how many other people feel that way, right? And then you quantify it. So it's always going back and forth between qualitative and quantitative. Hopefully working hand in hand. You either start with qualitative to really even understand what questions you should ask in a survey, let's say. Right? And then you go back to understand more, and so it's back and forth.
Okay. How do you use how do you differentiate between a low touch and a high touch customer in this? Because that's something you found that anecdotal insight and you scale. But with low-touch customers, it's sometimes not clear, like what's really making them drop off. Or what technique would you use in that?
Right. I think there's a couple of ways of looking at this. The low-touch versus high-touch customer, you can think of the customer-centric idea, of the idea of customer centricity. And what I've learned about customer centricity is I've learned from people like Professor Peter Fader from the Wharton School. He's considered to be the godfather of customer centricity, if you will. He's written books on it. And his view is that customer centricity is recognized in, of course, when you have a lot of customers, that not all your customers are the same. And some have a better fit for your business and some are more valuable to your business. They'll shop more. They'll be really great advocates and ambassadors for your business. They do the word of mouth promotion for you. So those customers, you have to go above and beyond for them. The rest, of course, when you have customers that are, not that great of a fit, you still need to treat them well because they still pay the bills of the company. But you don't really go over and above for them. So the first step is understanding who's who. And you do that through, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir, you do that through market segmentation.
Yeah.
But it's really essential to pick the right method for market segmentation. Usually it's not demographics. Demographics is fairly straightforward and easy to do, but it doesn't give you great insights.
Especially
the most insightful is psychographic or mindset segmentation.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting topic that you brought in, that certain customers are not a fit for a brand. And as a brand, I know your tagline is customers giving it a wow experience.
Right.
Right. So do you consciously do that as a brand, that, okay, maybe our product is not for you? And I've read in the Zappos book that you would recommend, if there was a cheaper product somewhere else, there was a customer service story I read.
Exactly.
That, okay, we don't have the shoes.
Exactly.
It's one-off case, but we want you to succeed.
Right.
And this is a website where you can find this shoe.
Suryansh, this is a great example. That's how the Zappos story was built. The Zappos brand was built on this idea of customer service. And almost 25 years ago now, Zappos is almost 25 years old. Back in the day, Tony Hsieh and the team recognized that this is an area where they're going to win by investing in customer service. So they built into this high-touch customer service over the phone. And you're right, it's with this investment, I make the parallel between that and the idea of hospitality, right? Where everything is for the customer. You go above and beyond, and indeed it's based on the principles of generosity, for example. Right? So indeed, if we don't carry a certain type of shoe and Nordstrom has it, we tell you can go buy it on Nordstrom. Right. So which is what made the Zappos name so well known, because then you burn to go and tell others that Zappos are doing this amazing thing, because nobody else is
these
doing
are the champion stories that go.
Right, exactly.
So at Essentially Sports, when we started, a big problem statement that we were solving was bringing the fans' voice, and our tagline is the fans' perspective. So I'm quite curious, when you talk about customers and certain customers which are your champions, how would you put the spectrum of customer and fans? Are they same? How are they different?
I think it's a fantastic question. I haven't thought about it until now, but I think it's a fantastic question. You know why? Because it goes to the heart of the matter. It's about emotion. That question brings the point about the role of emotions in any business. Because fan comes from fanatic.
Yes.
What is a fanatic? Fanatic is somebody who feels a very strong emotion. And that's what differentiates these experiences of sports and music, and people are going there, jumping up and down, dancing, shouting, right? They're fans. They would go pay, nowadays so much money to go watch there, right? It's a favorite sport. So the question is, we have that natural thing happening here, the passion, the dedication, devotion. How do you then make retailers have such followers the same way, right? That's the question. And you may not reach those levels of emotion ever, because one is shopping, the other is a much more emotional experience by its nature.
More emotional.
But I think that's the big challenge for any business, to say, how can we not have customers? We want fans. This is it, right? And even recently, borrowing again from the idea of hospitality, and I'm a big fan of this famous New York restaurateur, Danny Meyer. He talks about the application of the idea of hospitality to any business. And he talks about KPIs, and he differentiates, for example, the KPI of best versus favorite. So he's saying we don't want necessarily our restaurants to be rated as best by some critic. We want you to say, this restaurant is my favorite. It may not be the best. But you see, so I think that goes to also to your question about fans, and to me that brings up, I think it's a fantastic insight, say, how can any business turn customers into fans? See, this is fantastic. I think this is
that should be a user research book. Maybe that's the next book you write.
Maybe you're right.
We can collaborate.
It was your idea. Let's do it.
It's I think what you bring in about best and favorite, it's quite interesting. As like I don't like to call as sports because we do 12 sports. Calling okay, this is the best sports is kind of unfair, right?
Right,
It's
exactly.
also like it's your favorite athlete, it's your
Exactly.
favorite sport,
Exactly.
and that's an emotion a fan always relates with.
Exactly.
I can see where your sentiment is coming from.
Right.
Talking about fanatics, I was researching about you, and I noticed you have your own fanaticism about certain sports and certain passion projects. And as an entrepreneur who started a passion project, I do want to touch upon that
Sure.
a little bit. I think you are a big fan of skiing, if I understand correctly.
Skiing, well, no, not really. I don't know. I don't know where. I'm a fan of something, not necessarily skiing, but it's kung fu, Shaolin kung fu.
Okay.
Is my, I've been practicing, and I'm a real fan of this. I can say that, and my kids like skiing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was checking your background and I noticed you had like a startup 2.5 years you were working on.
Okay. So all right, this is great. It wasn't my passion project.
Okay.
It was a friend of mine as a absolute fan and very passionate about snowboarding.
Okay.
Craig Goebel, he's a great designer, and we were together at TurboTax. So this was an idea to say, let's start something, and I'm actually very envious of folks like you who are living the life of. I'm an entrepreneur at heart, but some people are destined to succeed. Some people are, try and learn from it. But so this was one of those trying nights and weekends kind of thing, side project. The idea was, I think it's still relevant today. And this was almost 10 years ago to when you take videos and photos of ski resort, like your skiing experience, to pin it right on the map of the actual slope, not the general area. My contribution was I personally went and researched, and I found over 3,000 resorts all over the world.
Wow.
Which was, I used Google Maps, and I was almost like a detective with finding the latitude and longitude and pinning. There were over 700 in Austria, and over 700 in Japan.
Yeah.
And then I found a couple in Dubai. I mean, some in Dubai, like indoors.
In Dubai?
Exactly. So Russia, I mean, name it. But so this was the idea, and but it's good to see, like, to really figure out where the origins of these things are.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting, the war stories you're sharing. Do things that don't scale is a big startup tagline always, right? And we did essentially sports as a passion project for 6 years, and then it turned out to something which is like now top 10 sports website.
That's amazing.
And that emotion, when you were just talking about it, I can feel that. Like, it's the nights and the weekends which build something that you care about, and which is what creates the fandom and having a customer wow experience.
Exactly.
Right? Which also brings me the question about culture. So as somebody who is entrepreneur at heart, like you said you are, I think it might be native for you to have that, like it's normal. And when you go lead research of Zappos, it's instinct for you because you are an entrepreneur at heart. But such cultures are difficult to scale in a company. So how do you scale in your team customer as a wow experience, insight collection, and people really taking ownership of having the best experience for the customer?
Right. Great question, Suryansh. I'll go back a little bit to how Tony Hsieh built the Zappos culture, because and I joined, of course, years after he built the culture, so I can't take credit for this, but I learned from it. And the way he built it was precisely being laser focused on preserving this entrepreneurial spirit, although the company had grown from 20 to 1,500 or something like that. And at that point, he felt the need to really create a culture very intentionally that preserves that entrepreneurial spirit. And so they created the core values very collaboratively, and they're all about being humble and wowing through service and so on. So he wanted he did these really crazy sounding experiments, like market-based dynamics. So within the company, he said the idea was that as a researcher, I have many internal customers. Marketing is my customer, and merchandising. So I need to keep them happy. Not only keep my manager happy, who pays my paychecks. So that was the way to build this entrepreneurial culture. And then There was another one called self-organization, where people were encouraged to organize around meaningful work that's important for the business, but they had the freedom to start a project.
Okay, like the 20% project.
Something like this, right? So now fast forward many years, right? That's how we started our Voice of the Customer program and so on. But my approach is to democratize the research process.
Okay.
To give access to anybody who wants to go into our text analytics platform and explore customer sentiment. And also recently, I mean, we have a awesome, fairly new UX team. The leader is Joanna Danino. She is a great designer, great design leader, a UX leader. So she basically asked me to put together a catalog of all the past research, and so that's another way to
nice.
And to onboard everybody and to share and to basically it's transparency and sharing, and that's the approach.
That's great insight, Alex. It's been wonderful, and I find so much relatability. Even it's at a different scale. Like in our company, everybody writes, even if you are a lawyer or a marketer, because the content creator economy should stay.
That's it.
Great. This was a great conversation, Alex. Wonderful last 15-20 minutes, and the sun is out now, so we should get some coffee and get going. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure.
Thank you.